What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit a million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
America, we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. By honoring your sacred vocation of business, you impact your family, your friends, and your community. At Grand Canyon University, our MBA degree program is 100% online, with emphases in business analytics and finance to help you reach your goals. Find your purpose at GCU. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu.
This episode is brought to you by Indie Insights. Indie Insights is our bi-weekly newsletter and love note to the film industry, movies, and the creatives that make them, not to mention you, our esteemed listeners. Inside, you'll find curated industry trends, articles, exclusive commentary, and underappreciated films from filmmakers like you worldwide. And the best part is that it is completely free. So join today at www.bonsai.film. It takes just a few seconds. And once you sign up, you'll get the very next newsletter on Friday morning. It's that simple. Go to www.bonsai.film to get Indie Insights, our bi-weekly newsletter, and join a network of film creatives just like yourself. And don't worry, we'll never sell your information or spam you with a bunch of nonsense emails, just the bi-weekly film industry goodness you need. And if you ever tire of Indie Insights, simply unsubscribe. No gimmicks, no games. So go to www.bonsai.film to get Indie Insights for free. You're listening to Make It, a podcast by Bonsai Creative that helps creatives in film get where they're going faster by sharing the advice, knowledge, and insights of professional creatives across the film industry. I'm your host, Chris Barkley.
Hi guys, my name is Shavvon Lin. I'm an actress and singer, and you might know me from my recent single release called Enough for Love, and maybe my short film that went into several international film festivals called Apart Together, and maybe a national commercial for Pan Express that I did several years ago. And I'm working as an actress in Los Angeles, and I'm actually currently writing a script that I spent the past 2 years working on.
Shavvon Lin, welcome to the Make It podcast.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, this is going to be fun.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm kind of pumped because it isn't often that I get to interview someone who actively has a film project and a music project out at the same time.
Yeah.
We do interview a lot of multi-hyphenate creatives, a lot of people who are great at music, great at film, but they're not actively pursuing both lanes at the same time.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So this will be fun. Plus your background, I think the audience has so much to learn and be inspired by. So I can't wait to dig in, but let me go back a couple steps and do my job here and give this audience a deeper sense of who you are. I'm going to read from your bio, and if you feel like you need to amend to anything, if you feel like anything is incorrect there, just let me know at the end. So I'll give it a shot. Shavvon Lin is an award-winning actress, singer-songwriter, screenwriter, and founder, co-editor of the book series New Wave Acting. Her powerful journey spans moving from, let me get this pronunciation right, Guangzhou, China, to the United States to study film and communications at UCLA when she was just 18 years old, to becoming a multidimensional entertainment business talent. Shavvon started singing and dancing ballet at the age of 9, and by the age of 10, she was studying classical vocal training. In 2014, Shavvon made her film debut in the independent short False Awakening, and later went on to star in other movies such as A Better World in 2015, Alibi in 2016, Goodnight Butterfly, which is amazing, in 2017, Love Takes Five in 2017, and The Wandering Earth in 2019. The film Love Takes Five was shown on national television over 144 million times. For The Wandering Earth, Shavvon was cast for the highly coveted role of dubbing the English-speaking voice of the character Han Duadua. The Wandering Earth became China's 4th highest-earning film in its cinema history, and the 4th highest-earning non-English film to date, earning $700 million at the box office worldwide. In addition, Shavvon has lent her voice to national commercials for Toyota, Panda Express, the aforementioned Panda Express, and more. Her most recent starring role was in the dramatic short film Apart Together in 2021. That was also tremendous. I've watched that several times, which saw Shavvon win 8 Best Actress awards, including the Independent Shorts Awards, the London Independent Film Awards, and the New York Indie Shorts Award. In 2020, Shavvon released her first single, the invigorating pop track Love Me Later, which I've heard many, many times as well. Her current music inspirations include Jasmine Sullivan, Pink Sweats, and Her. That's not a bad list whatsoever. And up next, Shavvon is tracking a neo-soul and R&B flavored EP, which includes her new single, as mentioned before, Enough for Love. She's also writing a TV series, managing a calendar of busy acting auditions, and is signed on for several upcoming films. Wow.
That's a very detailed bio. And very complete. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not even exhaustive. There were paragraphs that just, I said, I'll be reading for 10 minutes if I read the whole thing. So even after cutting some out, it's still very detailed, but I'd love to kind of start way, way, way back, even before you began doing ballet. And I'm just wondering if you can talk about how life was growing up in Guangzhou, China.
Yeah. So I was born in 1994 in Guangzhou. And I remember, so let's go back. So I just remember that I love singing ever since I probably can make sound, I think. Because my mom is a music teacher, professor in college. And she also went to music college as a vocal major. So I kind of grew up listening to her practicing. But she does classic, like Chinese classical music, which is, I think it's almost like Chinese opera kind of singing, so classical, but in the Chinese language, like instead of like Italian. That's what I'm trying to kind of differentiate. But yeah, so I grew up listening to her sing and grew up with a lot of just music in my environment. So I just remember loving singing. And then I started playing piano and dancing ballet when I was very young. So just very musical, kind of grew up very musically. Yeah. And I've lived in Guangzhou until 18 when I came to the States for college.
You mentioned your mom was a classical music teacher. I think that's incredible. And I think just to get some of the audience up to speed, some of our audience is going to know this, some won't, but I want everybody to be up to speed. Guangzhou is the third largest city in China, and it's a metropolis. It's pretty affluent, generally speaking, for considering sort of the mass that China has in some of the smaller provinces and farming towns. So I am curious. Go ahead.
Area. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I just want to say, yes, Guangzhou, for those who don't know, it's a very urban, it's a really big city. And I live in just an urban area. I actually live in a financial district. So it's just a very, so I kind of grew up very much in a city. And that's what I actually fancy, country life now. I've always been attracted to more of a country and rural life because I grew up in a very city life. I just very tall building around me, and I live in a tall building, that kind of it's just a very urban area.
What was you're in LA now?
Yeah.
How different is a metropolis?
Yeah.
There versus a metropolis here in LA? What are the differences between, because they're both big cities, they're both, sort of giant places with financial districts and entertainment districts of their own and arts. Can you tell us some of the differences there?
Yeah, I love this question because it actually reminded me when I first landed. Well, when I first got into UCLA, the surrounding area of UCLA, which is Westwood, right? So West LA, I just remember seeing much kind of, for me, shorter buildings than I used to see growing up around my my family, my house, right? So I just remember feeling this is almost like a suburb for me. And I think this is a common feeling, first impression, that my peers, international student from China, felt as well, because we discussed this in UCLA. Just for us from Beijing or Shanghai or Guangzhou or Shenzhen or Hong Kong, LA just feels much like a suburb, kind of less busy, right? And then much more spread out as well. And then you don't see people walking on the streets very often. So it felt very different. It almost felt a small town to us, really.
That's amazing.
Because we're used to seeing a lot of people walking on the streets and a lot of the skyscrapers, right, around us. But I think, but I love LA because I love driving. And then, because I actually never drove in Guangzhou. So
Right.
LA is the city where it's the first city that I was able to drive my car and explore the city. So that part I actually enjoyed. Yeah, because in Guangzhou, public transportation might actually work better than driving your own car because traffic is really bad.
Yeah, just to give people a sense of the size, it's got 14 million people in it. So it's 1.5 times larger than New York City. So that's a lot of people in one space. But that's fascinating, that information. That's fascinating to know that, coming from where you come from, LA is like a small place with smaller buildings. And it really is spread out. I've always thought it's like 5 cities in one. And if you ever do come to Nashville, I don't know if you've been to Nashville, but if you ever come to Nashville, I'm sure this will feel even more small, which will make you feel even more warm.
I know. And I know that a lot of the musician friends of mine are actually currently moving to Nashville from LA. And I always want to go, but I never went.
If you decide to visit and scout it, let me know. I'll give you the key to the city.
Yes, I would love to. Yes.
Yeah, we'll hang out. Actually, I think Sakari Greenwell, who was one of the co-writers on Enough for Love, she went She went to Belmont University.
Exactly. Yes,
right here in Nashville.
She lived in Nashville for a while, and I love Sakari. She's my friend. I love her.
Let her know her voice is unbelievable. I heard her album, her Mocha album. And your voice is unbelievable as well, obviously. But we're having you on for that for that reason. But she should know that she's doing a wonderful thing with Mocha as well. Thank you. Of course. What was life like with your parents? You mentioned your mom was a classical teacher. Was there a big expectation that you study music, or was it that you study something else, or like what was that life like? Was it creative or was it tense?
Interesting. I love your question because it's actually kind of the opposite. My mom really wanted to stop me from being musical. And it kind of falls into that stereotype of like how Chinese parents have high expectation, right, for their kids, and they prefer certain occupations over others, right? Like professors are good, doctors are good, lawyers are good, right? And unfortunately, I grew up kind of like that. Like it's for me that was exactly the same. But then because I love singing, and it was so obvious that I love singing, I just couldn't stop singing. So my mom was like, you know what? Let's just put you in classes, put you in like private training. Right. And just let you, because I was a kid, and it's good for kids for her, just even the general idea of having kids receive like musical education, right? Doesn't harm too much. Like that's her perspective, not to like train me into a professional singer. That's really the last thing that she wanted. And then because I was a very like goody child, I was really good in my like just schoolwork. I've always kind of been the top of my class. So and for her, like someone who, and that's a strong stereotype, but for her, someone who becomes a singer or actress must be someone who's not good at their schoolwork. Right. It's just like if you're at top of the class, if you're good at your academics, then you should become like just like lawyers, like the elites, right? Stereotypical elite occupations, instead of being a entertainer, right? From her perspective. So I definitely grew up not. Like my parents definitely do not want me to become creatives or artists.
It's interesting because in Western culture, we view artists as types of geniuses. And a lot of our best musicians are very studious. They always had the best grades, and they were typically very, very good at math, which made them good at instruments and made them good at specifically guitar, piano, etc. And so we really revere those artists as some of our most quality citizenry. So it is interesting, that dynamic. I've had a little bit of a taste of it because my college roommate was a Gujarat Indian. And one of my best friends, his name is Tommy Zhao, and he was Chinese, or is Chinese. And he wanted to be a reality TV star. And his dad said, no, you're going to be a heart surgeon. And the way that he got over on his parents is that he went and did plastic surgery. Instead, he said, you thought I was going to be a heart surgeon. Wrong. I'm going to go do plastic surgery. So that's what he does right now. And I assume he's very, very good at it. But I am curious, how did you convince your mom and dad? And I don't know what your father did, but how did you convince them that this was the right path for you?
First, can I just comment? Instead of doing brain surgery, he chose plastic surgery. That's such a that sounds like it's almost like rebellious, an act of right.
It's exactly what it was.
Acting like right. It's rebellious, but still fall into medical, and I love that.
That's right. That's right. He didn't have the courage to like completely go off the reservation.
I know. Yeah. So it's within that range, right? Let's be a bit rebellious. I love that.
He wasn't as brave as you, Shavvon.
I was more of a rebel, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, that's so fun. What was the question about my dad, right?
I was curious what he did and how you convinced him and your mom to just go ahead and let you pursue entertainment and create in the creative life full time.
So my dad works in like state-owned enterprise, and then that's kind of maybe it's only a thing in China or some
right.
You know, like it's not a thing in the States, right? It's state-owned enterprise,
right?
And I don't actually think he had too much. Like he just wanted me to grow up happy and healthy. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
My mom was the one who's been more like critical on my like life choices, right? But to be honest, I just remember I wanted to switch my major to theater because I eventually I minored in theater and majored in communication studies, right? But in my junior year, I wanted to just switch to theater and just switch my major to theater instead of doing the minor. But my mom was so opposed to it that I cried. I just remember that phone call was so dramatic. Wow. I was outside. I was just outside John Wooden, our gym in UCLA. And I just remember sobbing, and she was sobbing, and she felt so sad knowing that I wanted to do theater.
Wow.
So I didn't want to hurt her in a way because I've always had a really close relationship with my mom. So I kind of didn't switch the major for her.
Right.
Yeah. So right. I only did my. Yeah.
Right. And when this all pays off for you big time, then everything will be fine anyway. It always ends up being fine once the whole thing pays off, right?
I don't even remember when she kind of accepted my career choice to work as an actress, right? I think it was just gradually. And then she kind of maybe saw that I was able to book things and she gradually accepted it, but there wasn't a point in which that dramatic conversation happened and she said that I accept you, I now accept your and I agree with your career choice as an actress. No, just gradually.
It's probably not going to happen. It's probably not going to be definitive, right? I'm curious, this audience is global and they could be listening from anywhere on the globe and wanting to do just what you did and come over here and go to UCLA, which is maybe easily a top 50 school in the US, if not top 30. What is the process for immigrating from China to the US? What process did you go through?
I won't necessarily use the word immigrating really because
I apologize.
No, it's okay because I only thought of myself as going to kind of receiving college education in the States. And that's just something that I always wanted to do. So that's something that I thought that I kind of planned since middle school. I just knew that, for college education, I'll be attending a U.S. college. So I took the SAT. And
do you remember what you got?
Oh, and TOEFL. SAT?
Yeah.
Like, it was, I think 2180.
Holy shit.
And because it was 24.
Yeah.
No, but I wasn't, it wasn't that good, really. But for my from the Asian Chinese standard. Really. Yeah,
that's hilarious.
But I so I just took the SAT, and I didn't go to international school, actually. I just went to a kind of a top public school. So I had to learn, like, I had to prep for SAT myself, and then prep for TOEFL myself. Maybe went to kind of a like workshop, but mostly worked on it myself, and then submitted the applications. So just like a very conventional applying for college procedure. Yeah, as an international student.
How did you have the idea to go to college in the U.S. in middle school? Was it always UCLA, or was it Harvard or Berkeley, or was it somewhere else?
Oh, I like that question because, firstly, the decision to go to U.S. for college education was very simple because I knew that U.S. Has the best colleges in the world, well, at least from my knowledge and perspective, right? It can be subjective. So I wanted to go to the best colleges. Yeah, that's it. Like, I wanted to be in the top colleges. And also I watch, I think, like many people around the world, I grew up watching Hollywood films, grew up listening to musicians, right, artists from the States. I grew up just listening. I was exposed to the American pop culture since I was a little kid. Oh, wow. So like I said, like many people around the world, I think that at least from my era, right? I don't know if it's the same now, but at least from my era, a lot of people fancy going to the States and going to the US colleges. Yeah. So that was that. And no, UCLA wasn't my first choice. And I always wanted to go to private school. But unfortunately, I got waitlisted several schools, and my best choice was UCLA.
What were some of the schools you applied to that you got waitlisted on?
I applied to most of the Ivy and several liberal arts college. Okay. If you're familiar with, like, Oberlin. I applied to Williams and Wellesley, and I was waitlisted for Wellesley. Yeah, I really wanted to go to Wellesley.
Yeah, Wellesley's great. Williams is great. But hey, UCLA is fantastic as well. And you ended up in California.
I loved it there. And I wouldn't go on this path of becoming an artist if I wasn't in LA. Like, if I didn't go to LA.
Oh, that's fascinating. For sure. Yeah, that's actually really interesting.
I'm grateful for that. Yeah. For sure. I'm actually grateful for that.
So your process was just as simple as applying for colleges, seeing who would accept you and heading to that college. It was just that simple. You didn't have any issue with travel or any extra work you had to do to get over to UCLA.
No, it was just a very conventional international school, international student path. Like, it was a very conventional path as any international student. And apparently, because I applied for like more than 20 schools, so I know that, like, I know that at least one of the schools will accept me. So I kind of, how people would select schools at different tiers. And that, you might at least be qualified for this school. So there's like safety net. Like, I definitely was, like, it was a very, like, once again, conventional and complete procedure for any, just like any international school student who apply for U.S. college.
Very, very good. Yeah, play the numbers game. Yeah, for me, I applied to one college, and if they didn't let me in, then I was in big trouble. But they let me in. I did what it took. You started your creative life in ballet, as I mentioned before, at age 9. Do you still practice ballet?
I would say that I started in piano, because I started playing piano at like 4.
Oh,
so
wow.
that's very young. But I am not currently dancing ballet, but I still love dancing. And to be honest, my ballet years were, I didn't like ballet as much as I liked like street dance, or like, pop dance that I kind of this on my own, because ballet is very rigorous and you have to do a lot of the exercise repetitively, right? It's just like, for me, it got boring. So I didn't like ballet as much, but I love that ballet prepped me for the necessary dance, like foundation for dancing.
Yeah, and the discipline. Did you like the movie Black Swan?
Oh yes, I love it.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's not necessarily about ballet, anyways, right?
That's true. That's true. A ballet is just the vehicle to give you the story about.
Yeah.
What people demand of themselves from art and otherwise. How did you get involved and get on Olivia Hongzhou's radar? Because I want to transition here into your film a little bit and film life.
Yeah.
So for the audience, Olivia Hongzhou was the writer-director of Apart Together, your award-winning short film. Very, very moving. It's about a Chinese woman and her daughter seeking to find a long-lost daughter that she had to give up for adoption due to the one-child policy in China, which you also grew up under, I believe.
Yes.
So, how did you get on Olivia's radar?
Just like any actresses, audition, and the casting director that she worked with, Michael Sanford, booked me before for Goodnight Butterfly.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. Then so he remembered me and I auditioned, and then then she chose me.
Perfect. So it was just about winning in the audition. What do you, just for this audience again, we try to get into some of the tools and tactics, and I think this is an appropriate time to sort of dig in here. Was there anything you did in the audition room that stands out as a winning behavior, as the reason why you got the part?
It's a good question that I don't have any answer to.
You just went in there and read the lines.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I think for me, or I assume many actors out here, or maybe just around the world, at least for me, I kind of see audition as my job instead of a pre-stage to my job. I think that's
interesting.
Audition is my job, at least for the stage that I'm in now. So it just really, when I get an audition, I just prep for it, might try my best to prep for it, and then perform in the audition room.
I think doing a read and doing an audition is really powerful. I love that you put it that way, that it's your job. I've met a lot of independent actors that will not read or will not audition unless it's for a studio film. And they're almost insulted that you would ask them to audition or read if you're local to a town or local to a place or you're an independent filmmaker. But I don't think that's great because I think you need the repetition, you need the practice so that when that studio film does call you, you're ready to go.
I think that how do I put this? I try my best not to have the ego as how do I put this? It's quite sensitive because I don't want to judge the actors who do not want to audition.
It's okay, judge them. I just did.
Let me put it this way.
Yeah.
I do see the process of audition a different thing from when you actually perform or like act for your role. I think they're just two independent things. And I respect the process of audition. And I am someone who believes in the process of audition. And I do think that audition itself is also a good kind of exercise for new, like young actors as well. Because well, apparently for most people, for most actors, you're going to get rejected more than you're going to get booked, right? Mm-hmm. Even that process, it's a good mental game to prep you for the potential fame or like potential vanity that you're going to face. So I love this humbling process, even just mentally. I love this process. And also the technical stuff, right? Whether it's co-reading or like co-reading for certain commercials or like prep audition for theatrical. These are just good acting exercise anyways. And I love that we're able to train ourselves into the craft gradually by the process of auditioning instead of just jumping on in front of the camera or jumping on the stage before this stage. I like kind of see it as a must go through stage for actors.
Yeah.
And I don't like, I want to embrace it. And I do respect the process of audition. I know that a lot of people don't. And a lot of people actually don't like the idea of auditioning. And even some directors or filmmakers I know who don't really think the process of audition really work. I understand that there are different opinions surrounding this topic, but I am someone who believes in the process of auditioning.
Yeah, it's really well said. And look, the people I know that don't like it, it's not like I don't like them because of it. They're still buddies. They're still friends. I still respect their craft and what they do. I just think they're wrong about this one thing. When you read the script, what was it about the story for Apart Together that jumped out at you? What was it that made you think that you'd do a great job in the role?
Yeah, actually, exactly like you just said before, I grew up in the era of one-child policy, right? Because now it's in the past. Because right now, currently, China is not under one-child policy, right?
Right.
It's a very recent change, but right now it's in the history. So I am one of the kids growing up under one-child policy, and I unfortunately experienced son preference. Which means that parents prefer son over daughter,
right? Kind
of situation. So son preference, right? So I experienced son preference environments. When I met with my relatives who I maybe met once a year or something like that, right? I heard them talk about. Like I heard them persuading my parents to get a son.
Oh, wow.
And just yeah, like I grew up just hearing those discussions. So I do have maybe trauma, but at least bad experience, emotional experience with some preference. And I think most people my generation in China have heard, at least have heard, if not experienced, parents needing to give up child because of the one child policy. Yeah, just some heartbreaking stories. So this topic is very familiar to me, and I'm happy that Olivia, or just a young filmmaker who want to make a film about this theme, and that I think the way that Olivia approaches this theme, right, for me, is not overly dramatic. It's not. I like her way of approaching the theme, because it is a very sensitive topic, and it can be easily turned into kind of a melodrama kind of situation. And I love how she wrote the story. Yeah,
I agree with that. She wrote it so straight that I think it was really needed too. There's no reason to get political about it. There was no reason to add any extra wrinkles. Exactly. Just write that thing straight from the mother's perspective. And that's what she was able to pull off. And it allowed your performance and Leanne Lee's performance to jump off the screen. I really enjoyed the short. I noticed that the short's themes deal with sort of circumstantial separation and unrequited love, but so do your songs. So Enough for Love and some of your other tracks that you've released that sort of are just on YouTube floating around, by the way. It seems to be, it seems to be a theme that you like. Is the topic of unrequited love and circumstantial separation close to your heart? I know Enough for Love's lyrics deal with that too.
Interesting. Ooh, now that you put it like this, I actually never thought of kind of seeing from a distance and see, there's a common theme that but I think that even just personally, I am attracted to I think there's beauty in incomplete or like imperfection, incomplete stories. I'm someone who's attracted to non-happy ending, but not necessarily like tragic ending, but just something that is imperfect, and so that there's room for like emotional lingering. I don't know if I'm telling this if any of this makes sense, but I am attracted to the beauty of a imperfect or like incomplete story that doesn't necessarily have a happy ending, but doesn't necessarily need to be overly sad or tragic. I think there's like nuances in between a happy ending and a tragic ending. And I am personally attracted to that as an artist.
You're a woman of my own heart, because I feel the same way. I did a lot of that in my songwriting, and, I'm guilty of being just, a terrible person sometimes, because back when I was in music and songwriting, I found that it was really important for me to get into relationships just so I could get out of them. And then I would have songs there to write, which isn't awesome, but I am admitting it. I'm confessing to that. And there was a great line by Billy Corgan, who's the front man for the Smashing Pumpkins, in one of his songs where he says, "I'm in love with my sadness." And that always stuck with me, because I found I was a lot more creative when I was in that sort of heartbroken state. I could emote freely then, and it was always more difficult for me to emote freely in a way that was artful when I wasn't in that state. And it wasn't for years until I figured out that, that is a formula that I can't sustain. So I have to learn how to be a good writer when I don't want to write. I have to learn how to be a good writer when I'm happy. I have to learn how to be a good writer when I'm rushed. What does that look like for me? And that's what I had to figure out. But the idea of unrequited love is one of my favorite topics, and it jumped out to me with your work. So I had to ask you about it.
Thank you. And I think that what you just said also is the classic it's the classic topic, right? That classic question, if an artist need to experience what he or she creates, right? Is that experience necessary? Or, it's a classic acting thing too, right?
Yeah.
Do you have to experience that your character is going through in order to do a good job, right?
It's a big part of method acting.
No, I'm gonna say my answer is no for me.
Okay.
But also, I think because I'm someone who imagines a lot. Like I am able to, just by imagining the circumstance just by imagining the circumstances of my characters, to get into the emotional state. And I believe it's a healthier way anyway. Because I know that I am a sensitive person. I want to protect, I kind of want to protect myself. So I oftentimes need to have make a conscious decision to stay distance from my character.
Oh, wow.
But I do believe that, simply by using the techniques in imagination, you can get to the authenticity of your character's state of mind. You don't necessarily need to experience it. But I'm a fan of Stella Adler, and maybe that's why, but I'm just more prone into that acting style.
Well, thank you for that. That's very, very interesting. I love this idea of using imagination to drive those emotions so that you are personally protected from your own real loss, your own real emotion. That's really powerful. Can I read a quote of yours back to you?
Sure.
You were quoted as saying, "I can't really be alive without writing and singing, and I mean it."
Yeah.
Do you see your career continuing on both paths of music and acting, or do you foresee yourself leaning more towards acting or music in the future?
So the short answer to that is both, but I don't really separate singing and acting. I know that technique-wise, right, training-wise, craft-wise, they're very different. But for me, they're just different forms of self-expression. And when I said I can't really be alive if I don't write or sing, it's just a honest confession to make. And it was a recent one. And I started to really accept myself and know that I am someone who needs to express and needs to, how do I put it? I think my words are so limited. It's just like, if I lose a way to express myself, then it's just hard for me to live.
Right. Yeah. You don't want that taken away. It's very hard for non-creatives to even understand, I think, at times what it means. But and here's what I've figured out over the years is that for a creative, and here's a great example recently, Kanye West, right? Like he is best understood through his music and least understood when he speaks. So that's why his music is so powerful. And when he speaks, he gets in trouble. And I think a lot of creatives are like that, maybe not to the extremes of Kanye West, but we are misunderstood when we talk, and we are better understood when we create.
Oh, that's very interesting. Well, because for me, Kanye, from my own personal perspective, I just thought it's more of a mental health issue. And I think that
it could be as well.
But also I like how you put it, because similarly for me, I do feel more comfortable. This is how I would say it, hiding behind my creative work.
Yeah.
And talk to the world in that way instead of just like, I don't know, like just expressing in words. Like I'm much more comfortable expressing indirectly behind my work. And yes. So I think it's very similar to what you just said, but putting that on Kanye was very interesting. I didn't.
Yeah, because he's been talking like this for as long as he's been a star. It's just that we're in a different zeitgeist right now, so it just comes off different. So he's never been a great communicator through his words, in my opinion, unless he's rapping those words. Here's a very zeitgeisty question for you, something very spirit of the times. What is your opinion on appropriation in film? We recently talked about a filmmaker, documentarian named Meg Smaker, who is a white woman, former firefighter, now documentarian, who made a movie about Middle Eastern men that had been released from Guantanamo. What are your feelings about, let's say, a white man or woman making a movie about Chinese people, or Chinese people making a movie about the Black community? Should we all be free to make what we want to make, or do you think there are rules around that?
Are you familiar with the film Nomadland?
Of course, I love Nomadland and Joey Chow.
Yeah, and do you think that falls into this appropriation film?
I think that it falls into it for some people. For me, I think the work speaks for it, right? So
exactly.
At my company, we get hundreds of screenplays a year and pitches. And we've seen some real dreck come across our inboxes where it's like, oh, that maybe you should write what you know, because you're being offensive now. Like there was a script we all reviewed recently that was so ham-fisted and so just felt outdated. And I actually recommended that the filmmaker not make it. Like it would hurt their career if they made this movie because they had the completely wrong take on an issue. But then when you look at Nomadland, you're seeing a masterpiece. So who cares who made it?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that my answer to that question, just like what you just said about Nomadland, I think it's more about the work itself and whether that work is authentic, and less about the labeling, the identity of the filmmaker. Because regardless, right, of your cultural background or your race, right, the pigment of your body, right? One can come to understand another culture deeply. And that's because we are human beings, we are intelligent creatures. So really I think it's whether the work itself is authentic, right? And apparently if the work itself is not authentic, and plus the condition that it's made by people from another very different culture, then it kind of fall into that appropriation film. But if the work is authentic and you can see that the filmmaker or the writer really know what they're writing or making, then it shouldn't be like, I don't think I don't think the race or like the cultural identity of an artist should disqualify them for making films that are about other culture, country, or like.
Can I share a concept with you?
Yeah.
So I have this concept, and I call it the post-racial period. And the post-racial period is this moment that happens probably in the next 10 years where the ubiquity and cost of CRISPR and DNA technology plummets, where every single person just gets their DNA mapped just for going to the doctor for a cold, and it's free because it's just part of general health care. When the CRISPR technology sort of dovetails with affordability and it being part of common healthcare, people will then find out, whether they like it or not, that they're mixed up with all sorts of stuff.
I was going to say that.
And they can no longer like say they don't like a certain group or a certain race anymore, because people don't like to be hypocrites and they don't like to contradict themselves, right?
Yeah. They don't like to reject a part of them.
Part of themselves, exactly. And so for me, I know I'm French, I know I'm German, I know I'm from the Senegal and like Congo. I've got a little bit of Ashkenazi Jew in me. I've got a little Native American, some Eastern Asia. So I'm all over the place. So I have I really do. And so I have no space to hate anyone. Right? I'm already in that post-racial mindset, Shavvon.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think that I like how when you said post-racial period, I thought of, because postmodern, we just ditched the labels, right? So I understood what you were going to say, but I didn't know that you was going to approach it from the medical cost, technology point of view. And that's interesting. Yeah. And I think it would be a very beautiful, beautiful thing if that's what's going to happen. And I think it really is going to happen that way. Yeah,
I do too. Once everybody has it, then we'll have to find something else to fight about. You did the English dubbing of the Chinese film, The Wandering Earth. So we talked about that in your bio and how well it did. Just to remind the audience, this movie did $700 million of box office, and it's the fourth largest grossing film in the history of China. And you did the English dubbing for the whole thing. What is the difference? Because I know you've talked about, and you've said, hey, dubbing is acting. So how is dubbing different than, let's say, normal acting? And how would you teach someone in our audience how to approach dubbing as an actor?
So the experience of dubbing for a existing film, right? Because the process of this is that the film has been completed, and then it was acquired by Netflix, and then Netflix needed a English version, right? So it's almost recreating a part of a character that already was played by another actress. And it's mostly, it's almost entirely just on the voice. And so for me, I don't see it as necessarily just kind of translating or like just copy the original actress who played the role. I think that it's actually similar to my process of translating the books that I translated, right? It's when you translate, when you dub when you dub other people's performances, inevitably you're recreating, you're kind of collaborating with
I see what you
the
mean,
existing performance. Yeah. So and I know that I definitely brought some of my own interpretation to my dubbing too. So it's I know that I'm gonna accept that it's not gonna be completely complete, like it's not going to be the exact same thing as the Chinese original lines, and the lines even are different because there's no like, different languages have their own like styles and characteristics as well.
Right.
So even translating, even the language itself has its own characteristic. So so it's that, and I think that for dubbing, but dubbing itself really is the form of art, and voiceover, right? And there are many workshops, at least in LA, that train professional dubbing actors.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that if dubbing is something that you're really interested, then attend workshop or like read books about dubbing techniques, because in this world there's several categories as well. It's just like it's a big world of its own, dubbing, voiceover.
That's very helpful. And I'm thinking about your time at UCLA and the fact that you are this sort of dual threat singer actor. And I know at UCLA you did experimental musicals. So first, what is an experimental musical? And then second, do you think maybe that's a path for you that you haven't explored yet, is just being in musicals where you can act and sing?
Yeah, that's interesting because okay, so first, experimental musical. Okay, so the labeling experimental musical apparently is saying that it's unconventional, right? It's not a conventional story and then you make it into musical. It's different, and it might be weird for audience, and it might be hard to understand. It's just like it's, and then some parts of the musical might be intentionally triggering or something.
Okay.
Like it's just not a conventional sometimes maybe like even sometimes breaking the fourth wall, right? Breaking the fourth wall, it's just like a non-conventional musical experience. But there are so many ways, right, to do a musical non-conventionally. So I don't know how I can describe experimental musical in a more specific way.
I'm picturing The Office just with music.
Oh.
Where they can break the fourth wall and turn to the camera and say, Dwight's an idiot or something.
Yeah.
But just to music.
Yes, I think that's maybe a good material to make into experimental
Somebody
musical.
should do that, yeah.
And then the one that I did in UCLA was a full student production, but it was a very good one. So it was a very high quality student production, and then it was kind of a UCLA USC thing because we needed to find talents from the LA area to make that happen, and so that people mostly, and the actors are mostly UCLA and USC students, and the crew are also from both schools. So we kind of at that time called it a UCLA USC co-production on that one, and that's a really and that musical was written by very famous playwrights in China called Meng Jinghui, and he writes experimental musical, meaning he writes different kind of weird musical. And for that one, even when I play that character, sometimes I don't understand why I said certain lines and why the lyrics in the songs are like that. It can be very random. But it's I guess it's the vision of the writer-director Meng Jinghui, and actors might not understand it, right? from from a logic point of view, but if you embrace it and just have fun with it.
Yeah. And for you, are you thinking about auditioning for some musicals? I mean, I think it suits you.
Because it combines acting and singing,
of course,
right?
Yeah.
How do I put it? I had fun working on musical, and I actually pre-pandemic, pre-COVID, the year 2019, and it was September, I did go back to China. Like my first projects after signing with my current management in China was a musical. And I did a workshop for a month, sort of rehearsal workshop for the month. And then COVID happened. So the tour got canceled.
Oh.
And I had so much fun in the rehearsals.
Yeah.
And I love, I think the one thing that I loved the most might be to have a ensemble. I always love that experience, to do it as an ensemble, because that's kind of how I started in UCLA, right? In theatrical class, we always emphasize the concept of ensemble, and then interacting, listening, accepting, pay attention to your ensemble members. It's just, I love that group working environment. But then also I want to point out that I think musical is not simply combining singing and acting, because musical has a particular way of singing style. Yeah. Right? Singing for a musical is very differently from singing for like pop music or soul music. Like, it's just different. It's a different style. And at this stage of my interest, singing wise, I do want to make more of a neo soul R&B style of music. Mm-hmm. That's what I am currently most interested in. So musical style of singing is just not something that I am particularly interested in. Right. Like you need a new Lady Marmalade kind of musical to come out so you can use your style a little bit. I do want, let's dig into your music a little bit. I know before we get into the EP you're about to release, you did some music recording in South Korea in Seoul. I've heard of other artists doing that, including like Boyz II Men. If you're familiar with Boyz II Men. In Seoul? Yeah. Of course. What advantages are there? Yeah, I think they did Japan and South Korea in the past, like in 2014, 2015. For production or for tour? Oh, for singing. They recorded they have an entire album that was made in Japan, for example. And I know for sure they recorded songs in South Korea and produced albums for artists in Japan and in Seoul, Korea. The markets, yeah, interesting. So I was curious from your perspective, is there something we don't know? Is there an advantage to recording there? Yeah, so okay, let me just what happened was I had an investor for my that album, that EP that I actually haven't released. Oh wow! Okay. At that time, and then his vision or his company's vision for me was to do EDM music. Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, and at that time of my career, of my journey, I wanted to listen to other people's, like, I wanted, like, I didn't dare to make decision about my creatives, like my career, I had to listen to people, and I thought I had to.
Right.
So that was his vision and his team's vision, is to do EDM, and they want to do Chinese version and English version, and apparently K-pop, right? K-pop was already very, very, very strong at
Still
that
is.
time.
Yeah.
It's stronger and stronger. But even at that time, it was very strong already. And it was just like 3 years ago, right? And so that my investor wanted to have the best producer to make the Chinese version. Because for us, we thought that if we can get a top Korean producer to do the Chinese track, then it has the taste of an Asian taste, but also better production than maybe someone would find in China. And that's why we chose that. And we kind of want to experiment with that too. How would a US production different from the Korean production? And we actually did make the if you listen to Love Me Later, the Chinese version and the English version, the entire production, so the English version was done entirely in the States and by American producer, mixer, and the mastering, like everything was done in the States. And the Chinese version was entirely done in Korea. And you can actually hear how the mixing is completely different.
Yeah, it's
and
fascinating.
Even production itself. And if you just listen to it closely, because I know that you're a musician, they're very different. And we just have fun, and we want to see how that's going to be different. So we're just a bunch of kids who want to try that out, kind of, yeah.
And Love Me Later is Shavvon's first single. Well, I don't know if it's first. You did a song, you did a feature on a song too that came out right around the same time, but it might be the first single that we might have known from you. So I just wanted to contextualize that for the audience. What can we expect from this upcoming EP? I know the single Enough for Love is out now. Written or co-written by yourself, Sakari Greenwell, Jay Locke produced it. You can get on Apple Music, Spotify, everywhere. The EP's coming. What's it going to be named? How many songs are going to be on it? What can you tell us about the flavor of this thing?
Yeah, so this is a very personal project of mine, and it's entirely kind of curated by my vision. So I basically want to I don't want to care about what other people think. I don't want to care about if this style suits me. I kind of want to throw away all of those voices from outside of myself. I just want it to be completely free and just do it. So it has, the EP covers topics that I am currently personally very interested in, and it might include some social critique pieces, and it might include some personal, experience, my experience with my depression, and Enough for Love it's about, unrequited love that I experienced. So just very personal, and it draws from my emotional life, personal emotional life, and also what my mind is thinking right now. So it covers social critiques pieces because I kind of care about some social topics.
Absolutely.
And covers some topics that is very relevant to young people in China and the psychology of that.
Ooh, exciting. When do you expect it to drop?
I I really have no idea because I'm still working on it. And yeah, I'm still working on it. I have no idea, but my Chinese management has been asking me that as well. I have no idea, but I do want to take time with it.
Yeah. Don't let it out because someone says it has to be out or you think it has to be out. Let it out when it's great, when it reflects your values, your brand.
Thank you. Because for me, it's already a very personal project. I'm already not caring about a lot of things. So let me just take my time. Just.
Got it. Well, I look forward to that, and hopefully I'll get some, inside tracks text to me or something so I can just listen to them in advance, give you some feedback if you'll take it.
Okay. Yes, I'll do it.
I'm kidding, but if you want to do it, I'm totally open to it. I love stuff like that. Oh, Shavvon, what are the 2 best pieces of advice you've received in your career so far? And who did they come from?
Let me think. 2. Mm. 2 pieces of advice.
We'll take one if we lose the 2 lot over here. We can.
I just don't have a very specific, once again, dramatic moments of like enlightenment, But I really think the message itself, once again, it might sound cliche, really, because it's kind of a thing that people say, just be yourself. It's very cliche, and for the longest time, I did not understand what it meant, and I thought it was just this cliche of this like Instagram poster, that kind of thing. Yeah. But really,
platitude.
But really, be yourself, embrace your imperfection, embrace your experience, and accept yourself for who you are right now and your past. It's just that state of loving yourself, accept yourself, and be honest with yourself. That's very powerful. Mm-hmm. And that to me is one of the most powerful feeling in the world. And I don't mean that I am in contact with that feeling all the time. I'm still aware that there are many moments when I don't like myself, reject a part of me, even hate on a part of myself. But I would love to go more and more towards that path when I can one day, or I don't know, say that, I am becoming more and more of myself. I am becoming more and more of myself. Yeah, that's really what I'm trying to say. I don't know if there's going to be once again a dramatic moment of, finally I am fully myself, or is that even a real thing? But I want to work on achieving that.
That's beautiful.
Just really accepting parts of myself that I know currently I'm still rejecting and even hate sometimes. It can be simple things like I don't like a part of my body, or I don't like a part of my eyes, my nose. And it can be a more abstract things like I don't like my temperament. I don't like some of my attitude toward things like that. Yeah.
No, it's beautifully put. It's good advice for anyone to take. Which creatives do you admire most and want to emulate? And what do they do from a technical or skill standpoint in your mind that sets them apart?
So currently, and I can only say currently because I think I'm forever changing, right?
Right, sure.
But currently, I am learning a lot from musically. I am learning a lot from Jasmine Sullivan.
Mm-hmm.
Just her techniques first, and most people know that, you know, her runs, her singing, really, really good, but also just the rawness of the emotions in her voice. That's something that I've longed for, because I grew up singing classical, so I have this very stubborn concept about when you sing, you have to sing beautifully. Mm-hmm. So I am attracted to very raw kind of singing, raw emotional singing. And that's what I am hearing from Jasmine Sullivan. Despite the techniques that she has, she still managed to deliver that raw emotions through her voice. And she's brave enough to break sometimes. She's brave enough to add those different kinds of textures in her voice that I did not dare to think is possible, right? Because it's not beautiful from a more like conventional classical point of view. So I am learning a lot from Jasmine Sullivan, musically, vocally, and really, I think filmmaking wise, I love Ting Zhao's journey. Mm-hmm. And I like that, just like we discussed, she's there to like step out of the box and just write music, write stories, direct stories that are very different from her own surroundings and cultural background. And that's something that I think it's so brave, especially in the current age that we're in, right? So, yes, she's definitely someone that I really admire. And writer-wise, I really... I really like Mehmet. So just a classic. I kind of like his attitude too. So I want to be, because like I've always been a goody girl. So I kind of I am in this path to be more rebellious and more assertive of my voice. So he's someone that I definitely look up to and inspired by. Yeah,
I love this list, and I have to tell you that there is no one after, let's say, 130 or 40 interviews that has ever given us that list before. So kudos to you
really?
on the most original creatives list in Make It podcast history.
Really?
What would you say?
Thought those were classic choices.
They are, but at the same time, they're also like not Aaron Sorkin, Brad Pitt, Quentin Tarantino, people we get all the time. So they are, and then at the same time, Shavvon, they're not. So kudos to you. But those choices are like explicitly and specifically Shavvon Lin, though. Those make perfect sense for you to say. So I think that's awesome. Okay. Speaking of bravery, what do you think are your greatest strengths and weaknesses? It can be creative or otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, the first thing that popped into my head of strength is also something that I've been thinking, because we are in this, and I'm going to be kind of grand about this. So I think that so there's one thing that I believe in. I believe that artists have not responsibility, but I am someone who want to carry the responsibility of reflecting the time that we're in. Mm-hmm. So I don't believe that all of the artists should do this, but I do think that I want to be an artist who reflect the time that we're in. And I think my strength kind of apparently now in this critical time, right, in this US-China relations, the world being so divisive and almost in the brim of World War III, like in this very increasingly divisive world, and especially with US, China being the key players right now, I think my strength realistically is that I kind of have experience and insights about both culture and society. Mm-hmm. And I want to be a voice of, I don't know if it's neutral, but it's be a voice of, I want to come from a more like understanding, neutral, soft point of view, mm-hmm. to help both sides understand each other.
Yeah.
And I know in order to do that, one has to have the nuances to navigate. Like, it's just really hard to navigate. And that's why I have taken the time on the script that I'm currently working on, that I think won't stay in that lane of theme. So I think that's my strength, because realistically, I grew up in China and I spend almost 10 years in the States right now. And right. I actively think about this subject and I actively read about this. So I am someone who may have deeper understand than most people. And I would love to be a voice of that, of like almost connecting two worlds and help both sides understand each other, even politically. Yeah. Like, and I'm talking about even politically. I'm talking about, what about the regime of, is there any advantage and disadvantage of capitalism? Is there any advantage and disadvantage of socialism, even in that level?
Yes.
And once again, that's very hard to navigate, because so far, I think most people think of these as two opposite, like, social regime or constitution.
Right.
Yes. So that, and weaknesses. I'm full of weaknesses. What's my biggest weaknesses? I don't know. Okay, let's just put it this way. I think, similarly, my weaknesses is that I'm not American enough and I'm not Chinese enough. So I don't fit in both ways, to be honest. And that's sometimes really hard to it's really, it just feels really lonely. Like, when I was in China, right, I was considered more westernized, right? I was considered more Americanized, or like just westernized, I think. Because some of my, I don't know, like the way I talk and things like that, and even the way I think, right? Not very, very Chinese. I don't even know what that means, but that's the thing that I got, right? Not very Chinese. But then in the States, apparently I'm not very American. So it's just like, I don't fit. I never fit.
Yeah.
Right. And that feels lonely sometimes.
I really can relate to that. Me and my sister being biracial, my dad's German, and my mom is Black and was Black. And I would think my sister had it a lot harder than I did, because I think in general, especially in high school, girls are more cruel to other girls. Whereas for me, my qualifications for friend groups dealt with how well I could play sports and how witty I was, or, something that had nothing to do with fitting into a social group based on, where you came from or who you were. Whereas my sister wasn't Black enough for the Black girls, wasn't white enough for the white girls. And most of her friends ended up being Laotian. Which we had a big Laotian community where we grew up. So that, hey, it ended up being great. She married a Laotian, so she ended up being okay. But but I think that all came from sort of not feeling at home in either place. So that loneliness you talk about, I have experienced that. I've even experienced it creatively and intellectually before. So I really agree with you there and like that. You've been so incredibly generous with your time and so honest and fun with your answers. I only have a few more questions and I'll get you out of here. You just talked about, just want to squeeze these in because you just talked about going to China and they think you've been westernized a little bit, your voice.
Yeah.
I dealt with the voice thing too. Had a lot of my friends tell me I sound quote unquote white. I have no idea what that means. How does a white person sound? How does a black person sound? All those are stereotypes. So do you ever see yourself permanently returning to China? And have your parents ever come here to the U.S. to visit you?
Oh, yes, they have several times during college and my graduation, but not after COVID. So I haven't seen them in person for 3 years, almost 3 years.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Because I came back to the States right before COVID. And with, I don't know if you know, but with the quarantine time still currently in China, I don't want to experience that.
Of course not, yeah.
Yeah, so, and my parents don't want me to experience that, so it's been video chat mostly. But I don't know. I have no, I don't even know what I'm going to do tomorrow. So I have no like long-term plan to like move. Or I don't know. Like in a way, I don't care as much.
Yeah.
Where I live, but one thing for sure is that I am very, very interested in incorporating my experience and my understanding about the Chinese society, both from a cultural point of view, social point of view, and kind of the constitution, like kind of the political point of view. So I am gonna incorporate those into my writing at the very least.
I love that.
And I, to be honest, I am scared because I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the current world or the atmosphere, right, is ready for a non-binary, right? That's a good word, a non-binary, nuanced angle.
Yeah.
So I am scared. Yeah.
I look forward to it. And what did your parents think of the U.S. when they came? And is there something significant, if you had to think of something off the top of your head, is there something significant about China or life in China that most people here in the U.S. don't know or don't understand?
Okay, so first question, right? Yeah. So first part, my parents were afraid of guns. Like a lot of the international students have experienced. So my parents were afraid of the concept of gun permitted in public in the States. And so that they were concerned more on the safety side of thing. So I think that's the biggest thing. And the other part of the question, to be honest, I think that I've seen and heard and experienced so many different levels of understanding about China, even in California. So people can have very, very stereotypical and old understanding about China, maybe being completely rural or like communist. Just it can be a very dramatically old and weird concept about China. And I've experienced, and increasingly, American who have very nuanced understanding about China, even politically. And that's something that I am so pleasantly surprised about.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah. I think, to be honest, I think with the increase of discussion on democratic socialism and, and seeing kind of some of the negative things that can come out of capitalism.
Yep.
Or even, capitalism, let's just say that, overly consumerism or like a wealth gap, that kind of thing. People, especially younger people, are increasingly interested in learning more about different kinds of regimes, right, in the world. And I think that, it's just also a good time to have those discussion in a more nuanced way. But I think one thing that maybe stand out to me that I think most Americans don't know about China is that, I think in my experience, and once again, only to my experience, because I am well aware that I belong in I am in a bubble. Like I think most people, I just need to say that, because my friends are mostly international students, right? So I know that I come from, like privilege, upper middle class. I know that. So I only can say this about, I just know that my perspective comes from that. I think it's important to point out, because I don't want to represent Chinese people. But I think that from what I experience, I think Chinese know much more about America than Americans think. What they know about America. Chinese, I think a lot of them have very nuanced understanding about America, that I'm not seeing the same thing reversely. And I think that that's interesting. I don't know if it makes sense.
Maybe you should get together and make like a wiki page where we just put all the commonalities of each place in the wiki. You can search anything you want to find really easily on just those two places and the commonalities, because I think our governments and our media machines sort of scare us away. Because I noticed that even with my uncles and my uncle and my family in Germany, when they came to the States, the first thing they were scared of was that the side of a building was going to explode randomly downtown, because they'd watched all the Die Hard movies. They think that's like really America. And I'm like, no, this is Nashville. Nothing explodes here. And then sure enough, we had an explosion last year, but it was a small one. And they called him the benevolent bomber, because he told everybody in the neighborhood, hey, I'm going to kill myself. And I have a bomb in my RV. And you have this. He had a countdown, and you can read about this. This was like a Christmas or two ago. And he had a countdown on a megaphone when the bomb was going. So everybody could leave. And so there were I think there were no deaths outside of himself. So that's the kind of city Nashville is. It's like you have a benevolent bomber, right? Like not even looking to hurt anyone. So, but himself, it's still foolish, still ridiculous. But in general, yes, I find that's a fear of people who come from other places to the States, that the guns are an issue and that a building's going to explode randomly like in the movies.
Interesting. I actually haven't heard that one, that the building is going to be, but that comes from Hollywood movies, right? That's a Hollywood movie.
Every movie has to have one building explode, right? Like otherwise, what are we doing? if it's a tentpole movie. But Shavvon, your insight is amazing. Maybe, if it were possible, Shavvon for president, because I love your take on things. I love your personality, your attitude, your temperament. All that stuff is awesome and much needed in the public discourse and dialogue. I'm really happily impressed and not surprised, but just impressed with your take on things. Can you tell everybody where they can find you on social media, maybe where they can find you on the internet, where they can see some or all of your work?
Yeah, so I believe I only have one social media presence in the English world. Yes, and it's Instagram. But I am not a heavy social media user. Introverts. But I am trying my best to open up more and more. So it's my Instagram, and it's Shavvon Love. Mm-hmm. So my name Shavvon Love. That's my Instagram handle. I don't have Twitter. I don't have whatever is available in other social media. I don't know what. Snapchat I don't have. Okay, I do have Weibo, and it's a Chinese Twitter kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's my name, Lin Siyun Shavvon. And what else? Oh, and my films apart together, I think it's currently still it's on Amazon. Yes, it's on Amazon. Boom. Apart together, it's on Amazon. I think it just came out a week ago, actually. Wow. It was just a week ago, yes. So it was just added on Amazon. And I believe there are film festivals out there, but I don't know which ones that are playing, like kind of globally, because it's still in the festival cycle of things. And my music, not that many though. It's on Spotify. Yeah. So that's it.
Yeah, Spotify, just search for Shavvon Lin. That's Shavvon with 2 V's, by the way. So ShavVVONLIN. And you can find her on Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you listen to music. The new single is Enough for Love, EP forthcoming, but we don't know when. Apart Together, beautiful film. Check it out on Amazon, and do follow her on Instagram. I like that you're kind of a mystery on Instagram. I think we need more mysteries. There's only so many girls you can see in a bikini before you just start to numb of the whole institution. Oh. So I like that. I like that you keep it simple and keep it private. So that's at Shavvon Love. And we will end on this. Your favorite philosopher is the Stoic Epictetus. In what ways have his teachings guided your life?
Oh yeah, it just very simple. To make it very simple, is that focus more on the inner world and than the external world. Like meaning that the joy the happiness that we get from achieving goals like that are like external goals, or the happiness that we get inevitably as a human being from feeling like after comparing with I just realized that comparison is one big source of feeling good about ourselves, right? It's just feeling that I'm doing better than my peers. That kind of thing comes from the external world, and those are not stable source of joy. So basically, it's really about just focus more on the inner world and know that achieving goals that are internal, right? Just challenging myself, expanding my understanding about the world, that kind of goals. might bring you a more stable source of joy in life. So that's basically it. Just inner world is more important than the external. Yeah.
I love it. That's beautiful. What wonderful advice to end on as well for our creative community and our listeners.
Yeah, especially creative people, because we're sensitive. We're more sensitive, right? And it's very easy to get lost in the vanity of world.
Exactly. The comparison, the vanity, all that stuff. Again, it's one of those things that sounds cliche, but it's so important. And I think the reason things become cliche is because they're very, very true. I think the king of the cliches is the golden rule, but the golden rule might be the most true thing on the planet. I still haven't found anything maybe that's more true than just treat people the way you want to be treated. So with that, with that, I think it's a great place for us to end. Again, Shavvon, this has been a beautiful conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you have too. For those listeners out there.
That's so much fun talking to you.
It was a blast. And for those listeners out there, you know where to find Shavvon. Please support her films, support her music, support her creative path as you would want your own supported. And you can follow us and learn more about Bonsai at bonsai.film, or search anywhere you listen to podcasts for the Make It Podcast. And until next time, everybody be safe and work on that inner self, not the external self, as Shavvon said. All right, Shavvon, talk to you soon.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Talk to you soon. Be good. Hey, gang. One more thing before you go. I want to talk to you about Indie Insights. Indie Insights is our bi-weekly newsletter and love note to the film industry, movies, and the creatives that make them, not to mention you, our esteemed listeners. Inside, you'll find curated industry trends, articles, exclusive commentary, and underappreciated films from filmmakers like you worldwide. And the best part is that it's completely free. So, join today at www.bonsai.film. It just takes a few seconds, and once you sign up, you'll get the very next newsletter. It's that simple. Go to www.bonsai.film to get Indie Insights, our bi-weekly newsletter, and join a network of film creatives like yourself. And don't worry, we'll never sell your information or spam you with a bunch of nonsense emails, just the bi-weekly film industry goodness you need. And if you ever tire of Indie Insights, we hope not, but if you do, simply unsubscribe. No gimmicks, no games. So, one more time, go to www.bonsai.film to get Indie Insights for free. And thank you for listening.